You blew it all on poker? My shout rattled the cupboard doors, the plates inside clinking like nervous teeth. My son sat across from me at my own kitchen table, sprawled in the chair I built decades ago, not even pretending to apologize. He smirked, sliding a bank statement across the table like it was a joke. Not all of it, he said. I left you $20, enough for milk and pills. Sign this. Durable power of attorney. From now on, I handle the money. The numbers blurred in front of me, minus 47,000 in a single week. My 47,000. Years at the auto shop, skipped vacations, skipped dinners, pennies folded into envelopes marked surgery fund. All gone, red digits on a gambling site. Those were for my operation, I growled, jabbing a finger at the line marked Stanford Clinic. Yeah, I know, he said, leaning back, hands behind his head. But who cares? You're practically dead already. At least I'll get to live a little. Heat flared up my neck. My hands shook, not from age, but from rage. My son, the boy whose lunchbox I carried to school, was now treating me like trash at the curb. Let's sign it, old man, he said, thrusting a pen toward me. Or tomorrow, I'll drive you to Golden Oaks. They've got bingo nights and applesauce. You'll fit right in. He thought I was beaten, that the game was over, but I've never been a man who folds easy. And right then, I promised myself, if he wanted a game, I'd deal the final hand. And what comes next? He'll never see it coming. Hit subscribe now so you don't miss it, and drop a comment with your name and where you're watching from. Let him see I'm not alone. 6:10 a.m., no alarm, just habit. The San Mateo kitchen smelled like old coffee grounds and lemon polish from the rag I dragged across the counter last night. My right shoulder clicked as I tried to lift the pot. Bone on bone, grinding like rusted gears. The doctor had called it irreversible damage. I just called it too damn expensive. I cradled the coffee pot with my left hand, poured into a chipped mug from the auto shop where I'd worked half my life. The first sip burned my tongue. Same mistake every morning. A neighbor's radio leaked through the thin wall, the morning DJ muttering about traffic on the 101, fog rolling over the bay. On the counter sat my notebook, columns of numbers, insurance notes circled in red twice. $200,000, surgery fund, reverse total shoulder replacement, Stanford Clinic. Money I'd scraped together by skipping repairs, meals out, even birthdays. Money I'd promised myself I'd use when the pain became unbearable. But part of me had also kept it untouched because, well, stupid as it sounds, I thought maybe one day it would help Ethan. The phone buzzed. Ethan, my son. You up? His voice was clipped, managerial. Been up? I answered. I sent you a link for a smart thermostat. You never remember how to set the one you've got. I remember. Dad, don't start. Emily and I looked at your bills. You're burning cash on heating. I'll just put it on autopay from my account. He paused. Well, from one account. Don't worry about it. From yours? I asked. Relax. It's easier this way. Easier for him, maybe. For me, it was another inch taken, another door shut. I stared at the bananas blackening on the windowsill. I used to slice them into little trees for Ethan's oatmeal when he was 10. He'd laugh, say they looked like palm trees, then scrape the bowl clean. Now, he didn't even bother with breakfast here. Will you come by this weekend? I asked, voice catching more than I wanted. Emily's got shifts at Walgreens. I've got meetings. Maybe Monday. He hung up before I could answer. The silence afterward was thicker than the fridge's hum. I sat at the table, mug in hand, looking at the circled number in my notebook. $200,000. Surgery? Future? Or maybe just the last bargaining chip I still had. I set the mug down too hard. Coffee sloshed, staining the corner of the page. The ink bled, numbers blurred, just like my son's patience for me. The HOA office always smelled the same. Bleach from the janitor's bucket, burnt coffee in a styrofoam pot, and the sour tang of old carpet that no shampooing ever fixed. I took my usual chair near the door, the kind of seat you pick when you're not sure you'll last the whole meeting. My shoulder had been barking all day, bone grinding when I tried to shift my jacket. The wooden chair pressed sharp against my back, reminding me I was still more bone than muscle now. People shuffled in with the same tired small talk. Parking, dogs, someone's leaking gutter. A tray of Costco cookies sagged on the folding table. I poured weak coffee into a cup, the liquid lukewarm, and set it down just as Ethan walked in. Late, of course. Always late. Phone in hand, thumb moving like the room wasn't real. Emily trailed behind, Walgreens scrubs wrinkled from a long shift. She gave me a polite nod, the kind a cashier gives a stranger. Not a smile, not family, just acknowledgement. My chest tightened. Ethan dropped into the chair beside me without even glancing up. "Dad," he whispered, already fishing. "Insurance card. You bring it?" "In my wallet," I said. "Good, hand it over." His tone was clipped, managerial. "What for?" "So you don't screw it up. I'll handle the call." Before I could say no, he slid the wallet out of my jacket pocket like it had always been his. Snap. He took a photo of the front. Snap. The back. Then my license. He slid it back with a smirk. "You sure you should?" "Relax, Dad. It's better this way." The HOA president cleared his throat at the front, a heavy man in a golf vest who loved gavels too much. "Any maintenance issues before we move to parking?" Ethan's hand shot up before I even breathed. "Yes," he said. "My father's gate doesn't latch. It's dangerous. Someone should fix it before he hurts himself." Heat rushed up my neck. A dozen heads turned my way. I opened my mouth. "I never asked." "He's too proud to mention it," Ethan cut in, voice smooth for the audience. "We don't want to find him on the pavement." A ripple of chuckles, not cruel laughter, worse, sympathy, pity, the kind that puts you in a box and nails it shut. The secretary typed briskly into the minutes. "Howard, safety concern." The man next to me leaned over, coffee breath thick. "Good of your boy to step up. These old bones don't bounce." I clenched my jaw. I wanted to tell him my bones had carried engines heavier than his car. Instead, I said nothing. Ethan basked in the attention like a councilman. "Somebody's got to take responsibility," he said loudly. The words stuck like a splinter. Responsibility. As if I'd dropped it somewhere on El Camino. The meeting rolled on, fences, dumpsters, a Tesla blocking the fire lane, but all I heard was Linda's voice in my head, softer than the fluorescent buzz. "Be patient with him. He'll grow out of it." She'd been wrong. He grew taller, louder, smarter, but not out of it. When the meeting ended, neighbors crowded around the cookie tray. Ethan clapped Mr. Alvarez on the back like a politician. "Good looking out," Alvarez said. "These old houses, risky business." "Exactly," Ethan said. "We're planning ahead." I pushed myself up slower than I wanted, shoulder biting. Emily appeared at my side, sipping from a paper cup. She looked me up and down the way a nurse checks vitals. "You know, Ethan found a really nice place with memory care," she said lightly, like weather talk. "Golden Oaks, my aunt's there. They do crafts." "I don't need crafts," I muttered. "Everyone says that," she said sweetly and walked on. On the way down the stairs, Ethan finally gave my wallet back. He let it hang in his hand for a beat, just long enough for the gesture to sting. "You sure about this?" I asked quietly. "About looking after you?" He smiled like he'd won something. "Yeah, I'm sure." Emily slipped through the stairwell door. Ethan followed. I lingered alone in the hum of the exit light. The bleach smell clung to my jacket. When I got home, I latched the gate twice. It held fine, just like always. I pressed it shut again anyway, like a man checking if the house was still his. Saturday afternoon, I came back from Safeway with one paper bag balanced against my chest. My left arm ached from the weight. My right couldn't do more than hang. When I turned into the driveway, 3 cars already lined up. Hoods sun-warmed, doors open, music blasting from a Bluetooth speaker in my garage. The garage door yawned wide. Ethan's voice carried over the bass, full of laughter I hadn't heard at my table in years. I stepped inside, sneakers sticking to the thin milk I'd spilled earlier that week and never fully cleaned. The smell hit. Sweat, gasoline, cheap beer. Ethan leaned on the workbench. His buddies spread across folding chairs like they owned the place. "Careful there, Dad," Ethan called out as I shuffled with the bag. "Don't break a hip on the way in." The laugh that followed wasn't kind. One of his friends slapped his knee like it was a stand-up routine. I tried to ignore them, set the bag on the counter, eased the carton of milk out, too slow. It slipped, split open across the concrete, a white tide spreading toward the drain. "See what I mean?" Ethan raised his can in mock salute. $10 says he falls before it's mopped. More laughter. Emily, perched on a stool, sipped sparkling water. She tilted her head, smiling at the others. "Maybe he needs one of those delivery services," she said sweetly. "Meals on Wheels, right?" Another burst. My ears burned hot. I crouched, bad shoulders screaming as I pressed paper towels to the spill. One of the guys leaned in. "Man, this place is perfect once you get it cleared out." Big garage, good bones. Exactly, Ethan said, smirking. Told him he's just a guest now. He'll get used to it. The word guest landed sharper than the sour milk soaking into my shoes. I pushed to my feet, knees stiff, and carried what I could inside. The bag tore halfway, cans clattering onto the linoleum. I knelt, gathering them one by one, fingers shaking. Behind me, the music kept thumping. "Dad, relax," Ethan called out, toned sugar over steel. "We're only helping." Helping, that's what he called turning my garage into his stage. I shut the kitchen door harder than I meant to. The sound barely muffled the laughter outside. I set the dented cans on the counter, stood in the quiet hum of the fridge, and for the first time in my own house felt like a trespasser. Later, when they finally left, the garage smelled of beer and rubber, the trash can overflowing with empty cans I hadn't bought. I cleaned it alone, wiping down the bench I'd built myself, shelves I'd measured by hand. Every swipe of the rag felt like erasing my own name. Sunday evening, I boiled pasta the way Linda used to. Marinara sauce simmered low, garlic filling the kitchen, steam fogging the window over the sink. I set 2 plates on the table, poured water into glasses, straightened the silverware. Small things, but rituals matter when you're holding a house together by habit. When Ethan came in, phone pressed to his ear, he didn't even glance at the table. "Yeah, babe, don't worry. We'll have the place ready soon. My dad's still around, like furniture you can't get rid of." He laughed at whatever reply Emily gave. My hand tightened around the fork. "Dinner's ready," I said when he finally hung up. "Already ate with Emily," he muttered, dropping onto the couch. The TV flashed bright commercials across the room, drowning the garlic warmth. I sat alone at the table, twirled a forkful of pasta. Each bite tasted flat, like cardboard. Across the room, Ethan scrolled his phone, screen glow painting his face in cold light. Half an hour later, I carried plates back to the sink. That's when I heard it, his voice on speaker. Emily's laugh tinny. "So, when does he move out?" "Soon," Ethan said. "He just doesn't know it yet." The words froze me. The faucet ran cold over my hand. They spoke about me like I was a tenant refusing to leave. I walked to the doorway. "Did you say something?" Ethan muted the call, smirked. "Dad, don't eavesdrop. It's rude." "I live here," I said, voice low. "Exactly," he said, eyes never leaving mine. "For now." Silence stretched. The TV buzzed in the background. My chest tightened. Later that night, I shut the light in the kitchen, sat alone with the leftover pot on the stove, and ate cold pasta straight from it. The sauce clung sour on the spoon. The house sighed around me, the fridge humming like it pitied me. When I finally lay down, the walls no longer felt mine, just drywall waiting for someone else's paint. It started on a Tuesday evening. The sun was low, throwing stripes of light through the blinds onto my dining table, where bills sat in neat piles. My notebook lay open, pen resting in the column marked savings. I'd been tracing the same line for 10 minutes when Ethan walked in without knocking. He dropped his keys on the counter like a landlord inspecting property. Then he pulled out a chair across from me, scraping it loud. "Dad, we need to talk about the house." His tone was flat, businesslike. I closed the notebook halfway. "What about it?" "You can't handle it anymore. Taxes, repairs, insurance. It's too much. Emily and I have been running numbers. For us, it's perfect. Big enough for a family. Exactly what we need." The word "us" rang in my ears like a bell. "I'm still living here," I said carefully. "Yeah, for now." He drummed his fingers on the table I had refinished with my own hands. "But let's be honest, this house is already my inheritance. Why drag it out? Everyone knows it. Why wait until you—" He stopped, but the word "die" hung heavy in the air. My chest tightened. "You're talking like I'm not in the room." "I'm being realistic." He leaned forward. "You should be proud. Not many fathers get to hand their kids a place like this." I stared at him. He didn't know about the lottery ticket tucked into the black Bible on my shelf. $36 million, numbers I had checked 3 times. I had thought about surprising him, changing his life. Instead, he sat across from me, asking me to erase myself. "Don't worry," Ethan added, softer now, as if soothing me. "We'll make sure you're taken care of. There's a good assisted living place down the road. Clean, nice people. You'd have your own room." I laughed once, short and bitter. My own room in a place I never chose. He didn't flinch. He reached into his bag and slid a folder across. Blank lines, notary block, durable power of attorney. "It's sign this, make it official, no more stress." I didn't touch it. The blind striped his face, and in that half-light, I saw no flicker of shame, just calculation. The next night, the trap tightened. I was standing at the kitchen counter, trying to pour a glass of water when the cramps hit, sharp under my ribs, making the room tilt. My bad shoulder flared until I saw sparks at the edge of vision. "Sit," Ethan said, already pulling the folder from his bag. "You're dehydrated and confused. Let's take care of this now." "I'm fine," I rasped, though my voice shook. He slid the paper closer. "It's what responsible families do. Sign it and let me help." I reached for the glass of water. He moved it just out of reach. A knock at the door. Emily stepped in, Walgreens scrubs still on. Behind her came a woman in a fitted blazer with a gold badge, Golden Oak Senior Living. Placement coordinator. A mobile notary trailed behind, tote bag unzipped, stamp gleaming. "Mr. Howard," the woman chirped brightly, rehearsed. "Golden Oaks has a lovely memory care wing. Private room, activities, safety." "I don't need memory care," I managed. Ethan's smile was paper thin. "Dad, be reasonable. This is just a formality." On the muted TV, a scrolling ticker caught my eye. California lottery numbers from last night. My heart stumbled. I knew them. I knew them like my own phone number. The Bible on the shelf wasn't scripture anymore. It was survival. "Pen, please," I said suddenly. Ethan brightened, thrusting it into my left hand. "Good, let's finish." But I didn't touch the form. I stood, steadying myself on the chair. "I need my glasses," I lied and shuffled into the living room. The Bible lay where it always did, black cover worn soft. My fingers slid the folded ticket free. The numbers lined up in my head like soldiers. 36 million. My heart pounded, louder than the notary's clicking stamp. "Dad!" Ethan's voice sharpened. "What's that?" "A bookmark," I said, slipping it into my wallet, then into my boot. Pain lanced my shoulder as I bent, but I let it. Pain meant I was still in control. Back at the table, I sat again, put my hand flat over the blank form. "No," I said. Ethan's jaw flexed. The coordinator smiled thinner. The notary shifted, uncertain, but the TV kept looping the winning numbers. And behind me, my boot held the only thing in the room that could still decide my future. The night after the Golden Oaks visit, the house felt different. Quieter, but not the good kind of quiet Linda used to love. It was the hollow quiet of a place already half abandoned. I sat at the kitchen table long after midnight, a cold cup of coffee sweating in my hand. The clock on the stove blinked 12:00, like it always did after the last power outage, because I never said it right. I tried calling Ethan, straight to voicemail. I called again. "Same." Emily answered once, her voice sharp. "Please don't call me at work. We're busy. Ethan will handle it." Handle it, like I was a broken appliance. I sat with the phone still warm in my hand, the dial tone buzzing like a mosquito I couldn't swat. Around 2 a.m, the house creaked as the heater clicked on. I shuffled to the hallway where Linda's reading glasses still rested on a paperback she never finished. I reached out, then pulled my hand back. Touching them felt like trespassing in my own memory. At dawn, I walked to the diner on El Camino because I couldn't stand the walls anymore. Vinyl booths cracked, ketchup bottles sticky. The waitress, Marlene, poured me coffee without asking. "You okay, hun?" she asked. "Just my shoulder," I lied. 2 men in the corner were talking about someone's father being moved into Golden Oaks. Nice place, they take care of everything. Their voices slid across the room like grease. I left cash on the table, my fingers fumbling the bills. The girl at the register smiled too brightly. "Do you need help, sir?" That "sir" landed like a pat on the head. Respectful, but final, like I was already classified as old, fragile, other. The house sounded different after they left, quieter in a way that made the air feel thin. I sat at the kitchen table with a mug that had gone cold, watching steam that wasn't there drift up from habit. The clock on the stove blinked at 12:00. Oh, like it always did after an outage, because I never remembered to set it. The drip in the sink kept time for a while, then went off beat, and somehow that bothered me more than the ache in my shoulder. I called Ethan. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. When I tried Emily, she answered on the second ring, pharmacy beeps loud behind her. "Please don't call me at work," she said, words clipped like labels. "Ethan will handle it." Handle it, like I was a broken appliance. I put the phone face down and carried the dead coffee to the sink. My hand missed the faucet and banged the counter. The pain ran up my bad arm in a hot wire. I pressed my forehead to the cool cabinet and breathed through it, counting scratches in the wood Linda had asked me to sand and I'd never gotten around to. It's funny what you notice when you're trying not to think. At 2 in the morning, the heater kicked on with a hollow cough. I walked the hallway because sitting felt like drowning. Linda's reading glasses still rested on a paperback she never finished. I reached for them and stopped. Touching them felt like lying to myself, like pretending she'd shout from the bedroom to leave her things where they were. Near dawn, I couldn't stand the walls, so I drove to the diner on El Camino. The booths were split and shiny with tape. The ketchup bottle wore a crusted ring. Marlene poured coffee without asking. "You all right, hun?" she said, and I told her, "Just the shoulder," because there wasn't a box to check for. My son is planning my disappearance. 2 men in the corner talked loud about a father who finally agreed to Golden Oaks. They take care of everything. The words slid across the tile and stuck to my shoes. I left cash that didn't feel like mine on the counter and walked to Walgreens out of muscle memory. "Picking up for Howard," I said. The pharmacist squinted at the screen. "Already picked up this morning. Authorized family member." He didn't say Ethan, but he didn't need to. I stared at the spot on the counter where my name should have mattered. "Do you want me to call him?" the pharmacist asked gently. I shook my head and left without my refill. Doors chimed too bright. The sky over San Mateo was the color of old aluminum by the time I turned onto my street. Mr. Alvarez slowed his car, saw me in the window, raised a hand halfway, then remembered something urgent and looked away. Maybe he didn't want to choose sides. Maybe he already had. The gate I was too proud to mention latched just fine. I pushed it twice anyway and listened to the click, small and certain. Inside, the refrigerator hummed like it was trying to comfort me. I opened the notebook on the table and stared at the neat columns I'd written weeks ago. Surgery estimate, dates, the $200,000 I'd treated like a promise. My pen hovered, then dragged hard enough to etch through the paper. I wrote 3 words in block letters that looked like someone else's handwriting. "They want me gone." I capped the pen and let it roll to the edge and drop. The clatter echoed. I lay on the couch because the bed remembered 2 people and I couldn't bear the correction. Through the blinds, passing headlights drew pale ribs across the ceiling. Somewhere down El Camino, a siren wailed and faded. At 3:41, the sprinklers hissed alive, whispering against the window. I counted to 100, then to 2, then lost the thread and started again. Just before first light, I got up and stood in the kitchen, palms flat on the counter like a man steadying a boat. The sour tang of the expired yogurt still clung to the trash. I opened the bin and tied the bag too tight, as if strangling a smell could fix the thing that caused it. The knot refused to give. My shoulder screamed when I forced it. I let the bag fall and leaned there, breathing, listening to the house breathe back. When my phone buzzed on the table, I grabbed at it like a rope. A text from Ethan. "We'll talk tomorrow. Be reasonable. No good morning, no dad." I typed a reply I deleted 3 times. The sun was sliding up somewhere behind the fog. The clock still blinked 12 o'clock. I thought of Linda's glasses, of the pharmacist's careful face, of Alvarez's half hand and half heart. I put the phone down and wrote 1 more line under the first. "Stop asking." The letters looked ugly on the page. Honest, though. The heater clicked off. The house went still enough to hear my breath catch like a shoe on a stair I'd forgotten was there. The phone didn't ring for days. Not a single call, not even the spam ones that usually slipped through. Silence filled the house like dust. I sat at the table most mornings with coffee that went cold faster than I could drink it. I told myself it was just the draft in the kitchen, but deep down, I knew the truth. Silence ages you quicker than time. On Thursday, I forced myself to the HOA meeting. The hallway reeked of bleach again, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I thought maybe sitting in a room with people would feel like company. Instead, I felt invisible. When I walked in, Ethan was already there, leaning against the back wall, phone in hand. He didn't look at me until the room quieted. Then, loud enough for everyone to hear, he said, "Dad, you remembered the date? Good for you." A couple of chuckles rose from the chairs. My face burned. I wanted to shout that I'd been coming to these meetings before he even learned how to spell agenda. But I didn't. I just sat down, the plastic chair groaning under me. Halfway through, the HOA president asked if there were any safety concerns. Ethan raised his hand. "Yeah, my dad. He still insists on climbing the ladder to clear gutters. Last week he almost fell. We really should arrange maintenance before something bad happens." Heads turned toward me. I opened my mouth, but the words stuck. I hadn't touched a ladder in months. Nobody asked me. Nobody cared if it was true. The room moved on without me. That night, I heard laughter outside. Ethan had a few friends in the garage again, music rattling the walls. I carried my dinner plate back to the sink, but the noise followed me through the house, echoing like a reminder that the walls didn't belong to me anymore. When I stepped outside to tell them to keep it down, the voices cut quick. One of the guys muttered, "Guest of honor's here." Ethan smirked. "Dad, you should be in bed. It's late." My own driveway, my own son, and I felt like the intruder. Friday morning, Walgreens called. I thought maybe it was about my prescription. Instead, the voice on the line asked if I wanted to confirm the automatic transfer Ethan had set up for his account, my own money. My stomach turned cold. I told him no, hung up fast, and sat at the table staring at the notebook. The surgery fund, the neat numbers, the circled $200,000. I pressed my hand flat on the page as if weight could keep it safe. By Saturday, the house smelled of mildew where the milk had spilled in the garage and never been cleaned properly. Ethan promised he'd take care of it. He never did. He came inside instead, dropped a stack of envelopes on the table. Bills, insurance forms, notices. He tapped the pile. "You're behind. You're not keeping up. Maybe it's time I just take this over." He said it like an offer, but it wasn't. My throat tightened. I reached for the papers, but he slid them back. "Don't worry about it, Dad. You'll thank me later." When he left, the walls sighed again. The house felt smaller, corners darker. Even Linda's sweater hanging on the chair looked more like a relic than a memory. I sat down hard, pen in hand, notebook open. Under the line I'd already written, "Stop asking," I added another. "I am not wanted here." The ink bled through the page. The words sat heavy, undeniable. I closed the notebook and pressed it flat with both palms, the way you press down on a wound that won't stop bleeding. For the first time in my life, I admitted it. I was at the bottom. Either I stayed there, or I learned how to climb. It started with a receipt. Not some grand revelation, not a dramatic confrontation. Just a crumpled slip of paper, half buried under junk mail, on the kitchen counter. I almost threw it away. But the logo caught my eye. Silver Creek Casino, Reno, Nevada. My breath snagged. I smoothed it flat with my left hand. 2 nights earlier, 11:47 p.m. Ethan's name on the loyalty card number. He hadn't said a word about Reno. He'd told me he was visiting a client in Palo Alto. My heart drummed in my chest. The charge wasn't small. $4,000 withdrawn in chips. $4,000. I'd taught him to mow lawns for $20 when he was 12. Now he was burning 200 of those lawns in a single night. That evening he came by, casual as always, dropping his keys on the counter like he already owned the place. Emily followed, scrolling on her phone. They laughed about something I wasn't included in. I slipped the receipt into my pocket before he noticed. At dinner, he pushed bills toward me again. "Dad, you're slipping. Insurance is overdue. I'll just consolidate it into my account." I nodded, feigning confusion. Inside, my fingers clenched around the paper in my pocket. My proof. My first card in the deck. When they left, I sat at the table in silence. Linda's chair across from me seemed to lean closer, as if asking, "What are you going to do?" I laid the receipt out, smoothed it again, and stared until the ink blurred. I turned to my notebook. New page, new words. He's not saving. He's gambling. The pen tip dug through the paper, leaving grooves deep into the wood beneath. I snapped the notebook shut. Next morning, I tested it. I called Ethan, voice careful. "You were in Reno this week?" A pause, too long, then his tone light, dismissive. "Reno? No, Dad. You're mixing things up again." The lie rolled off his tongue like he'd practiced it. That's when I knew. This wasn't just greed. It was addiction. And addicts don't stop until something stops them. I folded the receipt and slid it behind the photo of Linda on the bookshelf. Not the final hiding spot, but safe for now. Proof of who he really was. For the first time in weeks, I felt the air shift, like the walls of the house had leaned a fraction back toward me. My son thought I was weak, confused, finished. He didn't see that I just picked up the first stone. And once you pick up the first stone, you don't put it down. The receptionist's voice was too cheerful for the kind of business she worked in. "Elder Law, Ellen Cho's office. Do you have an appointment?" I shifted in the waiting room chair, my bad shoulder stiff from the drive. The place sat above a nail salon and next to a tax prep office in a strip mall outside Redwood City. Not glamorous, but it smelled faintly of disinfectant and cinnamon tea. Clean, steady. Mr. Howard, a petite woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, appeared at the doorway. "Come in." Her office was neat, papers squared, a single plant in the corner, no wasted space, no wasted words. She motioned me to sit. "Tell me what's happening," she said. I laid the casino receipt on the desk. Then I told her about the notary at my kitchen, the Golden Oaks rep, the way Ethan had pushed papers at me as if I were already gone. She didn't flinch, just tapped her pen against the legal pad as I spoke. When I finished, the silence stretched. Finally, she said, "Do you have medical documentation of your capacity?" I blinked. "Capacity? Proof that you're still competent. Doctor's notes, evaluations." I nodded slowly. "Yes, orthopedic injury only, cognition intact." "Good," she scribbled quick notes. "That's crucial, because what I hear is exploitation. Your son's pushing for guardianship, power of attorney, assisted living. Standard playbook when someone wants control. But the gambling," she tapped the receipt, "that's leverage." She slid a form across. "First step, revocation of any presumed authority. You declare no power of attorney exists. Next, we restrict financial access. After that, we prepare a living trust. You decide who inherits, not whoever pressures you at the kitchen table." I stared at the paper. My left hand shook as I filled the lines, but each stroke of ink felt like a nail hammered into place. Intent. Control. My words, not his. Ellen gathered the form into a folder, stamped it with the date. "That's one brick in your wall. You'll need more. Documentation, witnesses, evidence of coercion. He'll push harder when he realizes he's losing ground." I exhaled, the tension leaving me in a single rush. For weeks I'd been bent under his weight. Now, for the first time, I felt upright. Before I left, she added one more thing. "If he's really gambling, track it. Statements, receipts, photos. Courts don't forgive addiction when it's tied to exploitation. The more you bring me, the faster we bury his petition." Bury the words stayed with me as I drove home. At a stoplight, I glanced at the folded receipt in my wallet. Small, flimsy, but enough to tip the first domino. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I knew what came next. Proof wasn't enough. I had to build a case strong enough that even Ethan's charm, even Emily's lies, couldn't crack it. This wasn't about surviving anymore. It was about turning the game back on him. I started small. The kitchen drawer where Linda used to keep her recipes became my archive. Beneath faded index cards for casseroles and lemon bars, I slid the bank printouts Ellen had given me. Unauthorized logins. Device IDs that weren't mine. Proof that Ethan had been probing my accounts like a thief testing doorknobs. Each night I added something new. Copies of insurance bills, statements showing cash withdrawals I never made. My left hand cramped from writing notes in the margins. "Not me. Ethan." 3 words repeated like a chant. But hiding wasn't enough. I needed recordings. So I dug out Ethan's old camcorder from the garage, the one he'd used for a high school film project. The battery barely held a charge, but the red light still blinked when I pressed record. I set it on the counter, aimed at the kitchen table, and waited. He came by 2 nights later. Emily trailed behind, her phone in hand like always. Ethan slapped a folder down in front of me. "Dad, just sign the damn thing. Power of attorney. It's not complicated." My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady. "You mean give you everything? It's protection. You'll screw it up otherwise." The camcorder's light blinked steady, steady, steady. "Golden Oaks has a room ready," Emily added sweetly. "You'd like it. Activities, people your age." I clenched my good fist under the table. "This is my age. This is my house." Ethan leaned closer, voice sharp. "Stop pretending. You're finished here. The house, the savings, even that ticket." He cut himself off, eyes darting toward Emily. My pulse jumped. He'd almost said it, the lottery ticket. And then his gaze shifted. His smirk faltered. He'd seen it, the tiny red light on the camcorder. In one motion, he snapped the folder shut and hissed, "You think this saves you? You're paranoid." His hand twitched like he might reach for the camcorder, but Emily touched his arm. "Not now," she whispered. "Not with that thing running." They left faster than they came, the door slamming hard enough to rattle Linda's photo frame on the shelf. I stood frozen, waiting until their car pulled away. Then I lunged for the camcorder, hit rewind, and pressed play. The screen flickered grainy yellow, the kitchen bathed in cheap light. Ethan's voice filled the tiny speaker. "This house, the savings, even that ticket, they're mine. I grinned despite the ache in my shoulder. Proof. His own words caught forever. But victory tasted fragile. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Delete whatever you think you recorded. It won't save you. My fingers trembled over the keys, but I didn't reply. Instead, I slipped the tape into a plastic sleeve, drove to FedEx, and overnighted it straight to Ellen. Insurance. Always insurance. Still, I knew he'd felt it too. The shift. For the first time, he wasn't the only one holding a weapon. At dawn, I walked into the Chase branch with my jacket zipped high. The young manager, Kara, recognized me right away. Mr. Howard, back again? I slid my ID across the counter. I want restrictions, no external links, no third-party access, only me. Her brow furrowed, but she nodded. A few keystrokes later, she pushed a packet toward me. Sign here. It locks out anyone without explicit court order. Even if they bring papers, we'll call to verify. My left hand shook as I signed. The pen slipped once, ink blotting the page, but the signature held. Mine, not his. Kara's voice softened. If you think you're being exploited, we can file an internal report. I met her eyes. It's my son, she sighed. It often is. When I left the branch, the morning air smelled sharp with car exhaust and hot asphalt. But for the first time in weeks, I felt lighter. I'd closed one door he couldn't open. Still, I didn't stop there. I drove straight to Walgreens, to the photo counter where Ty, the same clerk who'd seen the ticket, was restocking printer paper. You still remember what happened? I asked. He nodded quickly. Whole store does. People talk. Would you testify if needed? His eyes widened, then narrowed. If it comes to that, yeah, he was out of line. I thanked him, bought a pack of batteries I didn't need, and left. Witness. One more brick in the wall. That evening, Ethan showed up unannounced again. He walked the rooms like a landlord, his keys jingling. You've been busy, Dad. Bank visits, lawyers. Think I don't know? I leaned against the counter, hiding the tremor in my hand. You know less than you think. He smirked. Paper won't stop the future. But his eyes flickered just for a second. A crack. When he left, I pulled out my notebook and wrote 3 words across the page. First win secured. I touched Linda's old glasses on the shelf, the frame cool under my fingers. For the first time in months, I whispered into the quiet kitchen, he's not untouchable anymore. The fridge hummed, steady as a heartbeat, and I believed it. He was waiting across the street from Ellen's office, engine idling, sunglasses on through the fog hadn't burned off. I stepped out with my folder hugged tight and felt the look before I saw him. The window slid down an inch. Paper won't save you, Ethan said softly. Procedure eats old men. I didn't answer. I crossed in front of his bumper, slow enough to make him tap the brake. He took a photo of my back like I was evidence. In the glass door, I caught his reflection pulling out to follow. He tailed me 2 blocks, then 3. I cut into the strip mall with the donut shop and sat under a humming neon open sign, hands flat on the sticky table. He parked nose out and stared. I stared at the powdered sugar on my plate until it made a small white drift. When I left, he rolled forward to block, stopped just shy of my knees, then eased back with a smile that felt like a promise. By late afternoon, the knock came. Official knuckles. A man in a county windbreaker held up a badge. Adult Protective Services. We had a report. Behind him, Ethan leaned on the curb, arms folded. Emily stood a step behind, phone angled low, recording or pretending not to. May I come in? The agent asked. I stepped aside. He asked the simple things first. My name, my address, the date. While his pen scratched, I answered clean. He asked where I kept my records. I gestured to the table, to the notebook. He flipped a page without asking and read the line I'd written in block letters, "They want me gone." Ethan's voice drifted in from the doorway. You see, paranoia. He hides objects, thinks people are after him. I took the notebook back. People are after me, I said evenly. You brought a notary to my kitchen. The agent's eyes moved between us. We'll note this. I may schedule an assessment. You should, Ethan said. Soon. The agent left with a nod that meant nothing and everything. As he reached the curb, Ethan spoke without looking at me. Tick-tock. I needed air. Walgreens was brightest at dusk, aisles washed and fluorescent. Ty was at the photo counter, sliding prints into a paper envelope. He lifted his chin. You okay, Mr. Howard? Define okay, I said. As if summoned, Ethan pushed through the doors, voice pitched for the room. Dad, you wandered off again. People were worried. I walked, I said, not wandered. A woman by the greeting cards looked up. Ty's jaw set. Ethan's tone went sweet. "Let's get you home. I'll handle your meds from now on." Ty coughed. "That's not how it works." Ethan's smile thinned. For a breath, the whole store held still. Then the intercom crackled and life resumed. Beeps, footsteps, a kid whining about candy. But the tiny public scene had done its work. Eyes had seen, ears had heard, and not everyone was buying his version. Back home, the house breathed like it had a weight on its chest. I checked the vent, ticket still there, plastic sleeve cool under my fingers, then shut it and tightened the loose screw with a dime. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A recorded voice slid through syrup. "This is a courtesy call regarding guardianship options in your area." And I hung up and unplugged the landline. At 9:12 p.m., Ellen texted, "He's probing. Expect more noise. I filed your revocation today. If he tries emergency guardianship, we'll get a date." Noise arrived as headlights lingering too long outside, as a silhouette pausing at the end of my walk, as the Ring camera lighting up with "motion detected" and showing only fog. Near midnight he called. "APS liked my report," he said. "You're on a list." "You're already on one," I said, and ended it. I sat with my back to Linda's chair until the heater coughed and quit. The notebook lay open, my pen waiting. Under "They want me gone," I wrote, "Don't let him set the narrative." The next morning Ellen called, voice crisp. "Heads up, he filed an ex parte petition. Judge wants a brief hearing next week, Wednesday 9 a.m., Superior Court on Broadway. We'll be ready." Across the room, the red light on the thermostat winked like an eye. Across town, I imagined Ethan circling the date on a calendar he thought was his. Let him. Procedure cuts both ways. I came back from the grocery store with a paper bag balanced against my chest, my left hand cramping from the weight. Inside were just eggs, bread, and a small jar of peanut butter. When I set it on the counter, I noticed something wrong. My laptop, usually shut and gathering dust, sat open. The screen glowed faint blue, my email inbox filling the page. I froze. My last outgoing message to Ellen, my lawyer, stared at me. Subject line, "Guardianship Defense Strategy." But below it, a reply I hadn't written blinked in bold, sent from me. I clicked. The words punched cold into my chest. "Ellen, I've decided not to pursue this matter further. My son will manage everything. Please close the file." My stomach nodded. The sent time was 1:14 p.m., while I was standing in line at Safeway. Ethan had been in my house. The front door creaked then. He didn't even bother to knock. "Dad," he said, stepping in like a landlord. "You left your laptop on. Dangerous. Emails are confusing at your age." He tapped the screen as if it were proof. "That's not my writing," I said. He smiled thinly. "You don't remember sending it? That's what I've been saying. Look, Ellen will understand. You don't need lawyers. Family handles family." Heat crawled up my neck. I clenched my left hand, the scar tissue in my shoulder screaming, "Get out of my emails." "Dad," he said, voice dipped in false patience. "When the judge asks, do you want me to show them your paranoid messages, pages of nonsense, or do you want to trust me?" My throat felt dry as paper. I opened the drawer where I kept Ellen's intake forms, the originals, empty. My heart slammed once, then twice. He had taken them. I moved fast, faster than my shoulder allowed. I checked the shelf above the fridge, the recipe box Linda had kept. Nothing. My chest hollowed out. Then I remembered. The camcorder tape. I'd hidden it behind the radiator cover. I yanked it free, dust streaking my fingers. Ethan's eyes caught the movement. "What's that?" he asked. "Home movies," I lied. He stepped closer. "Let me see." "No." I slid the cassette into my jacket pocket, my pulse hammering. His jaw tightened. "You're playing games with things you don't understand. Don't lose what little dignity you have left." The room tilted under the fluorescent light. For a second, I thought he'd snatched the jacket. But then the sound of a car horn outside broke the moment. A neighbor waving, headlights flashing through the blinds. Ethan froze. Optics again. Always optics. He forced a laugh. "Fine, keep your toys. I'll be back." When the door shut, I leaned against the counter, sweat dripping down my temple. My pocket burned with the weight of the cassette. Proof. Barely mine. Almost lost. I pulled out my notebook, hands trembling, and wrote in block letters. "He tried to erase me today. Almost worked. The next morning, I drove with the cassette tucked inside my jacket like a second heart. The bank papers, the taped voicemail, even the lottery ticket hidden behind the HVAC vent. All of it felt too fragile under one roof. If Ethan could fake an email, what stopped him from planting something worse? At Chase, Kara, the branch manager, recognized me right away. Her voice dropped when I slid the cassette across. "Keep this safe," I said. She tilted her head. "We don't store tapes, but we can log documents." She handed me a form. Safety deposit box, annual fee. I signed with my left hand, slow but clear. She sealed the cassette and my extra bank statements in a flat envelope, then carried it herself to the vault. When she came back, she gave me a look that was both sympathy and warning. "Your son already tried to push authority once. If he gets a court date, be ready." "Then I need duplicates," I said. She nodded. "One at the bank, one with your lawyer. Never only one." By noon, I was back at Ellen Cho's office in Redwood City. The strip mall smelled of nail polish remover and cinnamon buns from the bakery downstairs. Ellen listened as I explained what happened with my email, her pen tapping the desk like a slow metronome. "He's escalating," she said, "which means we do too." She made 3 quick phone calls, then handed me another stack of papers. "This is a petition to preemptively revoke any unauthorized power of attorney. I'll file it today. Also, bring me any recordings. Courts respond to voices better than paper." I slid the second cassette from my jacket, the one with Ethan's voice, sharp and entitled, "This house, that ticket, they're mine." Her eyes flicked up, approval in them. "This will land," she said. Leaving her office, I noticed the sedan again. Dark, tinted windows, engine idling 2 rows down. The driver looked down at his phone, but my gut said Ethan, always watching. That evening, I moved the lottery ticket. The HVAC vent wasn't safe anymore, too obvious. I placed it instead inside Linda's old Bible, pressed flat in a plastic sleeve. Then I tucked the Bible into a box labeled Christmas lights in the garage, dusty, untouched, the kind of box no one would dare open until December. I whispered to the empty room, "Find it now, Ethan." 2 days later, Ellen called. Her tone was brisk but steady. "We have a court date. Probate court, Redwood City. Petition hearing. Your son filed for emergency guardianship. Judge set it for 2 weeks. My knees almost gave. "He's really doing it." "Yes," she said. "But now it's official, which means we fight official." That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the notebook open. The page read like a confession. He tried to erase me. He tried to take me. He tried to replace me. Below it, I wrote the new line. Now it's his turn to stand in the light. Outside, the streetlights hummed. A Channel 7 news van passed on El Camino, its antenna up. Something in my chest told me the world was about to watch. The courthouse on Broadway looked tired and important at the same time. Beige stone, tinted windows, a row of news vans hunched at the curb like patient animals. Channel 7's dish pointed at the gray sky. I could hear the freeway hum underneath the voices, reporters warming up their questions, sneakers scuffing concrete, someone fumbling with a tripod. Inside, it smelled like floor polish and old paper. Benches creaked, neighbors I didn't know I had turned their heads as I passed. Mr. Alvarez lifted 2 fingers from the back row, a small salute. Marlene from the diner sat forward like she'd paid for front row tickets. Ethan was already at counsel table, jacket too sharp for a man who used to borrow my belt. Emily sat beside him, lips pressed thin, eyes sliding off mine, the way you avoid a mirror you don't like. Ellen touched my arm. "Breathe," she said. "We go first." The bailiff called it. Howard versus Howard, petition for emergency guardianship. The judge looked over his glasses at us, late 50s, neat silver hair, expression that said he'd heard every excuse and all the crying before breakfast. "Counsel?" Ellen stood, calm, crisp. "Your Honor, before any argument on need, we address capacity. Exhibit A." The clerk carried a folder to the bench. I watched the judge unfold the affidavit and the notary page. The stamp looked like a small moon pressed in blue. Ellen's voice didn't rise or bend. She just said facts. Affidavit of capacity executed 3 days ago, and a declaration from Dr. Patel, Stanford Orthopedics, shoulder pathology only, no cognitive impairment. The judge skimmed. His pen tapped once. "Mr. Howard Sr., please step forward." My shoulder ached as I stood, but my legs were steady. Up close, I could see the scratch in the judge's wood nameplate. He looked at me, not through me. "State your full name." Arthur James Howard, date of birth. May 10th, 1958. Today's date? I smiled a little. Wednesday, the one my son thought would bury me. A ripple of laughter, cut off by the judge's raised hand. September 21st, I added. Redwood City Superior Court. Address? I gave it. Street, city, zip. My voice didn't wobble. In the second pew, Emily stared down at her hands. Ethan stared at the table like it might give him a cue. The judge nodded, made a mark. Thank you, Mr. Howard. You may sit. Ellen barely moved. We submit that capacity is not at issue. Ethan rose too fast, chair legs screeching. On paper, okay. In life, he hides objects. He thinks people are after him. He wrote, "They want me gone," over and over. He leaves the stove on. I don't leave the stove on, I said, louder than I planned. The judge shot me a look. I sat back. Ethan softened his tone for the room. Your Honor, I'm not the villain here. I'm trying to prevent disaster. He can answer those questions because he rehearses them. You didn't see him at home. You didn't see him wander into Walgreens and, from the back, Ty's voice carried without meaning to. He walked. Heads turned. The judge rapped once with the gavel. Ellen didn't take the bait. Your Honor, capacity is a legal threshold, not a feeling. You saw him meet it. Dr. Patel's declaration confirms. The affidavit is recent, notarized, filed. The judge looked at Ethan. Do you have a medical declaration? Ethan hesitated. We have concerns. Concerns, the judge repeated, as if tasting the word and finding it bland. He set the affidavit down in a neat square. Capacity is provisionally established. A murmur passed through the benches like a breeze. I felt it in my ribs. The first step holds, I thought. Make him climb. Ethan tried again, voice tighter. Your Honor, he sends emails he doesn't remember. He misplaces documents. Ellen lifted a second folder, not opening it yet, just letting the weight of it sit in her hand. We'll address the documents and the emails, but not under capacity, under conduct. The judge nodded once. Proceed. I felt my breath ease in an inch, and then another. On the aisle, a reporter scribbled and mouthed to her cameraman. He passed. Alvarez leaned back, satisfied. Emily's heel started a nervous rhythm against the tile. Ethan leaned close to his microphone and said softly, Paper won't save him. Maybe not, I thought, but it could save me. The judge took a sip of water. The courtroom lights hummed. Outside, a siren wailed and faded. Ellen placed her palm flat on the next exhibit, like a card she'd been waiting to play. The first wall had gone up. Now we were going to show what he'd done trying to knock it down. Ellen didn't raise her voice. She never did. That's why it carried. Exhibit B, she said, and Kara from Chase Bank walked up the aisle with the stride of someone who already knew she was about to ruin somebody's afternoon. She swore in, adjusted her blazer, and opened a folder thick with printouts. Ms. Nguyen, Ellen asked, did your branch record repeated login attempts on Mr. Howard Sr.'s accounts? Yes, multiple attempts over 2 weeks, all denied. And were those attempts traced? Kara tapped the paper. Device ID linked to the petitioner's phone. The room reacted like a church pew catching fire. Murmurs, heads turning, neighbors leaning in. Mr. Alvarez shook his head slow. Marlene from the diner whispered to the woman next to her, That's stealing, plain and simple. Ethan bolted upright. Objection! Device IDs are circumstantial. It could have been spoofed. The judge cut him off. Sit. The record will note the witness's statement. Continue, Ms. Cho. Kara's voice didn't wobble. Each attempt happened at times. Mr. Howard Sr. was in my branch in person. He could not have made them himself. I informed him. We restricted his account. Thank you, Ellen said. No further questions? When Kara stepped down, silence didn't fade. It thickened. Emily stared hard at her lap. Ethan's jaw muscles worked like gears stripped of oil. Ellen didn't give the room time to breathe. Exhibit C, Officer Reyes, Adult Protective Services. The man in the gray windbreaker rose. He swore in, sat, folded his hands calm. You visited Mr. Howard's home? Ellen asked. Yes, welfare check, initiated by an anonymous report. And your conclusion? No cause for action. Mr. Howard was oriented, responsive, records in order. Did you observe any indication of incapacity? Number frustration, yes. Family conflict, yes. But capacity intact. The judge glanced at Ethan. Anonymous report, was that you? Ethan spread his hands. Your Honor, anyone can call APS. Was it you? The judge repeated, voice low. Ethan hesitated one beat too long. Reporter's pen scratched harder. Ellen let the silence sharpen before she spoke. No further questions. Officer Reyes stepped down. The benches buzzed, a hive waking. A neighbor I didn't even know leaned to another and hissed, "He sicked a PS on his own dad." Ethan slammed his palm on the table. "He's making this theater. You don't see him at night. He hides things, The judge tapped the gavel. "Mr. Howard Jr., control yourself." I sat straighter, not speaking. Ellen had told me, let the evidence swing, and it swung like a hammer. One affidavit, one banker, one APS officer, each step cutting away Ethan's disguise. Ellen closed the folder softly. "Your Honor, capacity affirmed. Financial exploitation attempted. False welfare check noted. The pattern is escalation." The judge steepled his fingers, expression unreadable. "Proceed." And for the first time, I saw Ethan swallow hard. Not the smirk, not the fake calm, just a swallow, visible, heavy. The staircase under his feet creaked. The clerk called the next witness. A flash of gold caught the overhead lights as Rachel Grady from Golden Oaks took the stand, her corporate pin pinned neat against her blazer. She looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. Ellen didn't waste breath. "Ms. Grady, did you visit Mr. Howard's home on March 14th with a mobile notary?" Rachel nodded, voice small. "Yes." "At whose request?" The petitioner's, Ethan Howard." Ethan shifted, trying for a smile. "For his safety, Your Honor. We were making arrangements." But Ellen cut across him, sharp. "Did Mr. Howard Sr. request that meeting?" Rachel's eyes flicked to me, then down. Number he didn't. A ripple through the benches. Someone whispered, "Dragged a notary to his kitchen?" The sound spread like static. Ellen pressed. "What language did the petitioner use that day?" Rachel's fingers clenched tight on the folder. "He said, 'We had to finish quickly before his father changed his mind.'" The room erupted. Gasps, mutters, heads swiveling. A Channel 7 reporter leaned forward, pen already scratching headlines. "Out of context!" Ethan barked, half standing. His voice cracked sharp. "She's twisting it!" The judge raised a hand. "Sit down." Rachel swallowed, her face pale. "He also mentioned Golden Oaks' memory care wing, though Mr. Howard Sr. showed no signs of needing it. I told him placement wasn't appropriate without consent. He insisted we proceed." The benches buzzed again, neighbors shaking heads. Marlene from the diner muttered loud enough, "That's not care, that's pushing him out." Ellen's tone was calm steel. "So, the placement coordinator confirms coercion. Thank you, Ms. Grady. No further questions." Rachel stepped down fast, avoiding Ethan's glare. Silence followed her like a shadow. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Howard Jr., this is the third independent witness confirming pressure and unauthorized actions. Do you wish to respond?" Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. His eyes darted toward the cameras, toward Emily, toward the rows of neighbors staring like they'd never seen him before. Finally, he muttered, "I was trying to help. He forgets things. He hides things." And then he slipped. "He even hides a lottery ticket." The words cracked through the courtroom like a gunshot. Reporters froze, then scribbled. Cameras angled. Neighbors gasped. Even the judge lifted his brow. Ellen didn't move. She let the silence roast him alive. Then she turned, deliberate, to the clerk. "Play Exhibit D." The monitors flickered. Yellow kitchen light filled the screen, my own counter. Ethan's voice, raw and undeniable. "This house, that ticket, they're mine. Sign it now, or I'll make sure you don't get a choice." The room went dead silent, then gasped as one. Someone clapped a hand over their mouth. Alvarez shook his head in disgust. Ethan shot to his feet. "That's bait! He provoked me. You can't—" "Sit down!" the judge thundered. His gavel struck once, echoing like thunder. I sat still, my hands folded, letting the screen freeze on Ethan's face mid-snarl. Finally, the mask was cracking. The judge let the video hang on the blank screen a moment longer, the silence suffocating. Every breath in the courtroom seemed to wait. Then he looked up over his glasses. "Proceed." Ellen rose smoothly. "Your Honor, we submit Exhibit E." The clerk pressed play. A voicemail rang out, tinny but unmistakable. Ethan's voice filling the room. "Stop making this difficult. I'm trying to protect you. Bring the ticket. I'll keep it safe." The benches hissed alive. Murmurs surged like surf hitting rocks. Reporters' pens flew. Microphones leaned closer. Emily paled, whispering to Ethan furiously. but her voice carried. You said no one would ever hear that. Ethan slammed a palm against the table. Fabricated! That could be anyone! The judge's tone turned cold. Mr. Howard Jr., it is your voice. The court recognizes it. I sat steady, my hands clasped, watching my son twitch and stammer under the eyes of everyone. For once, the shame wasn't mine. Ellen didn't pause. Exhibit F, Your Honor. Kara, the bank manager, walked briskly to the stand, folder in hand. She swore in, spine straight. Ellen guided her gently. Miss Nguyen, did you observe repeated unauthorized login attempts into Mr. Howard Sr.'s accounts? Yes. From what device? Kara lifted the papers. Records show a device ID tied to the petitioner, Ethan Howard. Dates match times when Mr. Howard Sr. was physically present in our branch. He could not have been making those attempts. Gasps burst across the benches. Neighbors leaned forward. Alvarez muttered, caught red-handed. Ethan shot up, voice breaking. That's circumstantial. Devices can be spoofed. It doesn't mean... The judge cut him off, gavel cracking. Sit down. One more outburst and I hold you in contempt. Ethan sank, trembling with barely contained rage, eyes darting toward the cameras that now pointed directly at him. Ellen pressed the knife. Miss Nguyen, what did you do when you discovered these attempts? I locked the accounts to Mr. Howard Sr.'s authorization only. I also advised him to contact counsel for protection. So you recognized potential exploitation? Yes. A ripple of nods spread through the gallery. Neighbors, even strangers, their faces hardening. The tide wasn't just turning, it was rushing. Ellen turned back to the judge. We now have documented capacity, witness testimony of coercion, and proof of attempted financial exploitation by the petitioner. One final matter remains. She placed her hand on the last folder, her voice steady as stone. The original lottery ticket. Gasps rolled like thunder. Reporters shifted, cameras flashing. Every head in the courtroom swiveled toward me. And Ethan's face, pale, slick with sweat, crumpled for the first time. The clerk carried the sealed sleeve forward, gloves on, setting it gently on the judge's bench. Through the clear plastic, the ticket gleamed faintly. My shaky signature stretched across the back. The judge adjusted his glasses, studied it, then looked directly at me. Mr. Howard Sr., do you recognize this? Yes, Your Honor, I said, my voice steady. That is my ticket, my name, my hand. A wave rippled across the benches. Reporters leaned, neighbors whispered. One woman near the aisle mouthed, 36 million. Ethan shot to his feet. Fraud! He doesn't even know what day it is. He can't handle... The judge's gavel cracked. Sit down, Mr. Howard. But Ethan wouldn't. His voice rose, sharp and raw, breaking the last of his calm. That ticket was supposed to be mine. He doesn't need it. He can't even lift his arm. The room erupted. Gasps, angry whispers, even a low hiss. Cameras clicked in rapid fire. Emily tugged at his sleeve, hissing, Stop! You're destroying us! But he yanked free, face twisted. Ellen let the silence chew him alive before she spoke. Your Honor, the petitioner has just admitted motive and intent. We submit there is nothing more to prove. The judge leaned back, hands folded. His gaze swept Ethan, then turned to me. The evidence is overwhelming. Petition denied. Mr. Howard Sr. retains full control of his estate. Furthermore, this court refers the matter for review of financial exploitation by the petitioner. The gavel struck hard as a hammer. I rose slowly, my bad shoulder aching, but my spine straight. The room hushed again, cameras still rolling. I looked at my son, small now, cornered, sweat dripping at his temples. You buried me with papers, I said, voice low but carrying. But today, papers buried you. Ethan's face crumpled. Emily covered hers with both hands. Reporters swarmed for the exit, shouting into phones. Neighbors avoided his eyes. For the first time in months, the weight shifted off my chest. The house, the name, the ticket, they were mine again. And his power, built on lies and signatures, had just collapsed in front of everyone. The courthouse on Broadway in Redwood City wasn't marble and grandeur like on TV. Just tinted glass, faded seal above the doors, and a row of news vans idling out front. Logos of Channel 7 and 11 glaring under the morning sun. Reporters clustered with coffee cups, waiting like crows. When the bailiff called my name, the buzz swelled. Cameras turned, microphones shoved forward. Mr. Howard, are you the lottery winner? Is it true your son tried to put you in assisted living? I didn't answer. Words were ammunition, and today I couldn't waste a single one. Inside, the courtroom smelled of polish and stale coffee. Wooden benches creaked as neighbors, HOA faces. Even Marlene, the waitress from the diner, shuffled closer. Alvarez from across the street gave me a small nod from the back row, quiet support. I clutched it like a rope. At the petitioner's table, Ethan sat stiff in a jacket he couldn't afford 2 months ago. Emily was beside him, lips tight. His eyes found me, cool and sharp, as if I were already on a stretcher. The judge entered, silver-haired, glasses low on his nose, voice dry. Howard versus Howard, petition for guardianship. He scanned the docket, unimpressed. My stomach twisted, but Ellen's hand touched my arm, a signal to breathe. Ethan rose first. His tone was polished, rehearsed. Your Honor, my father has become confused, paranoid. He hides money, writes delusional notes. We're only trying to protect him before something tragic happens. He spread his hands like a salesman pitching security systems. A murmur ran through the benches. Then Ellen stood, calm. Your Honor, my client is competent. We begin with Exhibit A. She slid a folder across. An affidavit from Dr. Patel at Stanford Orthopedics. Diagnosis, rotator cuff tear, chronic pain. No cognitive impairment, capacity intact. The clerk carried it up. Paper rustled, pen scratched. The judge glanced down, read, nodded. Mr. Howard Sr., the judge said, eyes on me now. Do you understand where you are? I swallowed, spine stiff. Superior Court, Redwood City. Case is my son's petition for guardianship. And today's date? Wednesday, April 12th. The judge looked at me for a beat longer. And do you understand what's at stake? My name, my house, my future, I said. I'm not signing them away. The room was silent. Even the hum of the old fluorescent lights seemed to stop. Finally, the judge set the affidavit aside. Competency affirmed. Proceed. Ethan's smirk twitched, almost breaking. Ellen's hand on her folder stayed steady. The first stone had been laid, and it wasn't under me. It was under him.